Welcome to a Business Growth Mindset podcast. I'm Kristian Livolsi, and I'm incredibly excited and grateful to be here today and share this amazing episode with you. My purpose is to change the world one person at a time so that I can help them become the very best versions of themselves. To all the business owners and entrepreneurs, the crazy ones, the believers, the doers, the clever makers, the action takers, and everyone else in between, this podcast was designed for you. Today's episode, I discuss what does purpose, crisis resistance, and resilience have in common. I realized the answer to this question only yesterday. After my final presentation at ShowUp2020 Entrepreneurship Bootcamp, I was compelled to bring it all together in this week's episode. If this is your very first time visiting my channel or listening to my content, please make sure you subscribe by clicking the subscribe button now, as well as the notification alert. Otherwise, you're likely to miss future episodes. So stick around and listen up, because what I'm going to share with you has the power to change your mindset and those around you. This week, I was one of 9 speakers who were tasked to educate, inspire, and drive action at ShowUp2020 Entrepreneurship Bootcamp. Big shout out to Rosalind Fu and her team for bringing it all together, and a massive thank you to the enormous feedback and action that I witnessed. I was very fortunate to be presenting on 3 topics that are absolutely relevant right now as we experience a new historical event in COVID-19, but also topics that inspire change and action. As you know, my purpose is to change the world one person at a time so that I can help you become the very best version of yourself. By presenting at ShowUp2020, I got to fulfill this purpose, and I know by the hundreds of comments that I was able to provide value and impact. Here are the 3 topics that I was blessed to cover: power of resilience, what it is, why does it matter, and how to build it. Why purpose matters and how to find your why, and how to deal with change, the challenges, the resistance, and the models and secrets that come with it. Now, on the final day for me, which by the way was only yesterday, I was left with this overwhelming feeling that I had left something on the table. Now, I wasn't quite sure, so I meditated and did some self-reflection, and boom, this morning at 5 a.m., I realized that the purpose, crisis, resistance, and resilience have so much in common, but we rarely speak of them together because there is way too much to cover, and we often think of them as separate. Well, today I'm going to bring it all together because it moved me, and I want the same for you. The entire week moved me, in fact. It moved me so much that it has impacted my self-belief. It has forced me to become more impactful and help more people become the very best versions of themselves. Now, regardless of the time and circumstances that we face, one thing that I have found to be true is that we are rudderless without purpose, and too often we feel lost and desperate for meaning. During challenging times, we are all faced with the same consequences that come with change, our fixed mindset, and our resistance. And we all know that resilience is the ability to overcome adversity. But I believe it goes far beyond just weathering the storms. Resilience is learning and growing from the challenges that we face. And for this reason, at its core, I see resilience as the difference between failure and success. Now, Confucius says, "Our greatest glory is not in never failing, but in rising every time we fall." Stephen Hawking said, "Intelligence is the ability to adapt to change." And Mark Twain, the 2 most important days in your life are the day that you are born and the day that you find out why. I say the one singular thing that purpose, crisis, resistance, and resilience have in common is courage. That's right, it's courage. And before I jump in to courage, let's reflect on change and resistance, and then we're going to link it into purpose and resilience. The challenges that we face when implementing change, be it forced or planned, will often create resistance. It is important as a leader that you understand that to do to understand what to do with universal resistance. You see, resistance will manifest in many ways, from inertia to foot dragging to sabotage and rebellion. And as leaders, we need to equip ourselves with the very best tools, and that is understanding the predictable universal sources of resistance in each situation and then create strategies to tackle them. You must always be authentic, transparent, honest, fair, and fast. To overcome resistance, make sure you acknowledge that the change will create more work. Allow some people, therefore, to work exclusively on implementing the change and provide them incentives for those that participate immediately, as well as reward and recognize the champions. Resistance comes from uncertainty. Now, if people are scared, uncomfortable, and fearful, then the change will be resisted, and we all know that. So you must create a sense of safety, certainty for people, and you must have an inspiring vision to have them follow you down that rabbit hole. Now, you can do all this with a process that is clear, simple, and time-framed. And that is why it's critical that as a leader, you celebrate failure and you recognize the past successes despite the change. You need to make it explicitly clear that the world changes and we must continuously be able to adopt to the forces that influence our direction. And a growth mindset, ladies and gentlemen, is the key to letting go, moving on and growing into the unknown with confidence, or shall we say courage. Then there are the unintended consequences that come with the change that cause resistance. So change creates ripples that can reach beyond your circle. It disrupts customers, departments, suppliers, your family, your community, as well as you. Now, this can create a catastrophic sequence whereby people rebel against the change who aren't even impacted or have nothing to do with the change. So you need to ensure that you think wide and far before implementing change and consider all your stakeholders. And this ripple effect will be minimized and there will be less disruption. Now, you can never overinvest in reassurance, excellent communication, education, support services, and mentoring. In challenging times where change is forced, it's imperative that we must win the hearts and minds of the people for the change to be successful. Okay? So we need to use every effective communication channel possible to broadcast our vision and our message. And remember, actions speak louder than words, and even more than words. So even more important is what is said is done. Now, leaders who transform their organizations, guess what they do? They walk the talk. Nothing speaks as powerfully as someone who is backing up their words with behavior. And this is where knowing your purpose matters. Your purpose is your fuel and your vision. Your why is what gives you a sense of determination. It's what gets you motivated. It keeps you motivated. Your purpose, the reason why you do something, is what makes you outcome driven. Uncovering your purpose means that you are able to take action. You are able to take action because when you know what your purpose is, you understand the meaning behind everything that you do. Now, I'm so blessed to have Lucy, who supports me wholeheartedly in fulfilling and living out my purpose. For me, having the support of my family and the support of positive relationships allows me to live my purpose, which is what creates the harmony between my professional purpose and my life purpose, because I have complete respect for what Lucy and our children need. There may be times in your life when you lose your way, but when you are lost and you have a purpose, you can always find your direction again. When I went through an incredible amount of situational and clinical depression, I gained the first glimmers of insight into my purpose. I uncovered a really deep purpose for living, and that was what drove me out of the darkness. The resilience button kicked in and set me on a road to recovery. So why does purpose make a difference to depression? So according to Schaefer, right, it was hypothesized that one mechanism through which high purpose in life may protect against depression and the wear and tear of life stresses is by providing a buffer from negative events, promoting reappraisal and motivated coping processes, decreasing broadening and ruminative thinking styles, supporting faster and better recovery, and thus increasing resilience. So, when you have a purpose, you will always have a healthier outlook on work and life. Understanding your purpose allows you to make yourself vulnerable and to put your values out into the world. Although you'll still make mistakes along the way, obstacles appear smaller, problems become opportunities, and your mental health becomes stronger. You're building resilience. It is so easy to become fixated on the what and the how of achievement. This fixation is the reason many people don't recognize it. First and foremost, their focus should be on the why. One commonality between all great leaders is that they have a purpose. They know what they want to achieve. They sell their story and their vision to people, and those people follow them willingly. When you are purpose-driven, you can inspire others to follow you, because having a purpose, ladies and gentlemen, is magnetic. Some call it charisma, but the truth is it's much more straightforward. If you have a purpose, and most people don't, it is what draws people to you. Oliver Holmes was a famed physician and dean of the Harvard Business School. And he says, most of us go to our graves with our music still inside us unplayed. I love that. And when you understand your purpose, you go beyond the limits of your horizon. This puts you in an incredible position, one where you can elevate others to share your vision. The deep learning that comes from this message of crisis, resistance, and purpose is that your entire time you are building resilience. The most important lesson of developing resilience is the knowledge that you are not alone. We all go through change. We all feel lost sometimes. We all make mistakes. We all fail, and we all get things wrong. You don't have to pretend that you are invincible. In fact, resilience means allowing yourself to be vulnerable. The wonderful Brené Brown says vulnerability is about showing up and being seen. It's tough to do that when we're terrified about what people might think or see. Understanding how to face failure through resilience is important in our everyday lives as individuals, but also as leaders, and creating a culture at work that can facilitate failure. Being resilient does not mean that you are covered in some kind of impervious armor. To be genuinely resistant, you really need to be open. Resilience is about attaining a level of self-awareness and empathy that enables you to operate intuitively. Now, this means that when the storms come, guess what? You're the one handing out the umbrellas. And this leads me to courage. Each and every one of you listening to this message has the courage to live a purposeful life, to overcome a crisis, to build resilience, and to break down resistance. Many of you are searching for it, and many of you have limitless power. You have more power than you know. You have the power to change and the power to create. You are an influencer within your very own circle. You may not even think it or know it, but you are. And this provides you with the power to change and create change. You need to build on your courage. So courage is what brings this all together. Courage is much more than the attributes. It's a skill, and it can be developed. So how do we do this? How do we develop courage and use it for dealing with adversity or difficult situations? Now, in business, courage is often an action which we can refer to a special kind of risk that's being taken. Good leaders have a greater willingness to make bold moves. They do so by deliberation and preparation, and this avoids career suicide or business failure by increasing the chances of success. This is much more than a visionary leader's inborn characteristics, but rather a skill in decision-making that improves with practice. Most great leaders and entrepreneurs teach themselves to make high-risk decisions, and this is learned over time. These steps are not difficult, but they require practice. It's about being measured and calculated, and too often, new leaders and entrepreneurs and business owners, as well as individuals, make rash and unproductive decisions, often based on irrational behavior or emotion. So I'm going to share with you 6 steps, and this 6-step process that is going to help you to develop courage and give you the edge in living a more purposeful life, overcoming crisis and resistance, as well as helping you build resilience. So number 1, you got to set goals. Number 2, you got to determine the importance of achievement for you and everyone around you. 3, tip the power balance in your favor. Do what needs to be done. Number 4, understand the risk and reward. And number 5, setting time for action and timing. Nothing will get done if you don't do that. And 6, you got to have contingency plans. So what's also very important to consider when talking about courage is persistence and fear. There is no doubt that courage involves persistence in danger and hardship. I wouldn't be where I am today had I not persevered through the many challenges that I have faced in my lifetime. By persevering and persisting, I overcame and I was able to build resilience as well as courage along the way. This does not make me fearless despite what some people believe. In fact, fear is a very important component of courage. The absence of fear can cause you to make bad decisions and take uncalculated risks. The undesirable feelings and the subjective and physical reasons associated with fear can in fact become drivers that allow you to resist the behavioral response and allows you to face the fearful situation. Because courage is a universally admired virtue, some consider it an attribute to be promoted and nurtured. If any virtues are to be fostered within a society, one might even argue that courage should be among them, for courage may be necessary to maintaining and exercising the other virtues. Now, C.S. Lewis observed courage is not simply one of the virtues, but the form of every virtue at the testing point. Aristotle believed that an individual develops courage by doing courageous acts. And similarly, there is support for the idea that courage is a moral habit to be developed by practice. What's clear to me is that individuals are more likely to face a situation and attempt to cope with it if their previous experiences gives them a reason to believe they can meet the challenge. Resilience. This is why it's so important for us to take action and build resilience so that each challenge that we face makes us stronger and more courageous in anticipation for the next opportunity. Today's podcast was all about fulfilling my purpose, being part of a change movement, breaking down things that hold us back, and creating a more purposeful life for everyone, more resilient society, and one that can be courageous through change, adversity, challenges, and resistance. Purpose has become a cornerstone in my teachings and coaching of business owners. Building courage will now become a key instrument in accelerating my clients' growth and deepening their impact both professionally and personally. If you loved today's episode and are enjoying the series, please take a minute to rate it and provide a review, because this helps others know that the content I'm sharing is valuable, but also inspires me to share more content with you. Don't forget to share the podcast and the channel with others who you believe will gain value from the content that I'm sharing. And guess what? On courage, everyone's going to benefit. Please take care during this time. Be kind and courageous. And as always, live with purpose.